Hey, Bronson, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot, just crunching out some radio shows.
I was going to say, how many interviews are we on so far?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you're 7.
Oof.
So I got like about 12 today, man. I'm trying to stay on time with them. It's tough.
What's been the one question everybody's asked every single time?
The one question everyone always asks is, what's the difference between, what's more nerve-wracking, pitching in a big league game or being on stage?
See, I would have thought that it was going to be something along the lines of, because I was thinking about what the first question was going to be. It was going to be like, well, how'd you go from, baseball to music? And I was like, man, there's got to be a better way of wording that,
Right.
Bronson, welcome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No problem. We kind of just jumped into it there, but I like it. Bronson, you got a new album out. Yes, you're an MLB pitcher. You're a rock star, and, man, you kind of living the dream all the way around.
Yeah, man, it's been fun, I look at you guys up there in Des Moines, man. I remember playing against the Cubs there for sure. And, it was a long road, man, 22 years of playing baseball, but along the way I picked up an acoustic guitar, and it went from just trying to hack your way through some songs you love listening to playing around a campfire to an open mic night and then putting out a cover album in '05. And this is kind of my first stab at writing original songs that I'd want to hear on the radio, and it's a group of guys that I met in 2004 back when we won a World Series with the Red Sox, and these guys were all New Englanders, and we became friends and would play charity shows in the off season, and we always had in the back of our mind we'd probably write a record together, but we didn't know if it was going to come to fruition. And I got the itch in 2018 after retiring to try to write an album, and this is the fruits of that labor.
Go back to the moment that you go, you know what, we might have something here. What was that moment for you?
I wrote all these songs mostly in Cincinnati away from the guys in the band, even though I'd taken riffs from them to write over. And when I went back out to LA the very first time and I played them, I think, about 12 demos, and some of them they knew the riffs because they had given them to me, and they the look on their face was like, oh man, you've been doing some work here, man. Like, this is some serious stuff. And not that they thought the songs were so amazing, but they knew there was something there they could dig into. And I think that was the very first part of it. But then when we recorded about 70% of the record and we had to walk away because of COVID for about a year and a half, coming back and listening to it with fresh ears, the guys were like, wow, man, this stuff is really good, and we're going to have to do something with it.
Bronson Arroyo is on the line with me right now. New album coming out. Some might say, or it is out, excuse me. This has been around for a while. You've been doing the music thing for a while. Is it cool? I mean, that's a dumb question, but there's got to be part of you that's like, this is cool, right?
Absolutely, man. I mean, well, the most driving force in the whole, I'd say, equation is just the fact that I just can't go without music in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, I listen to music, but there's something different, man. I can go in my basement with an acoustic guitar at 1 o'clock in the morning, man, and just get the speakers just right where you feel like you're in a little pocket in a bubble where you can hear yourself really good. And to give yourself goosebumps, whether it's playing your own stuff or somebody else's, is so magic for me. I just can't get enough of it in a lot of ways. And so, as time has gone on, I realized that I was going to have to retire from baseball because, biology and old man time gets all of us.
Yeah.
And to be able to have something to dig into that is hard, and to have layers that you're having to peel back from, how far are you away from the microphone, and how tight do you want your guitar strap so you're comfortable on the stage, and how much can you jump around and still have some breath to sing these songs with and give them a stage performance. All these things are hard, and it's nice to have something to kind of lean into in retirement.
Did you grow up with music? Like, was it there with baseball, or is this something you've kind of stumbled across later in life?
It was always around. Everyone in my family played instruments. And my grandmother was a teacher down in the Keys for 7 decades. And so the music was always there, but they were playing music that didn't necessarily really, really turn me on. Like, I loved listening to the Mamas and the Papas and the Beatles and Elton John, but when I heard Stone Temple Pilots as a 15-year-old kid, I was like, whoa, that's something different, right?
Yeah.
They're like, coming from a darker place, it just really resonated with me. And so then I started thinking about the fact that maybe you do want to sing or do something, but it had never been on my radar as a kid at all.
Who was the first person you kind of went to with that, where you're like, hey, I'm going to sing, let me know what you think?
It's weird. I never really did that. I sang a couple of times in karaoke, and my brain was telling me that I was singing these notes and that I was in key. I didn't think I was a great singer, but I knew that I was delivering the song in a way that you could understand that was the Red Hot Chili Peppers Under the Bridge, right?
Yeah,
and I wasn't taking it so far off the beaten path. It felt like I was there. It felt like a sweet spot. Like, when you're in or you're out. Like, if you make a basketball shot or you don't, like, you should know. And that I really didn't ask anybody, and it was kind of a thing where I thought, I know I'm not great, but I'm going to keep hacking away at this thing until you get better and better and better, and that's still happening every day.
Well, you kind of ride that interesting line between athletics and music, and for a lot of kids, it's pick one, where it's like, hey, you know what, you're really good at baseball, we're just going to focus on that, and then they might miss out on the music, or the other way around, hey, you're pretty good at violin, so you miss out on doing this, where you've kind of got that sweet spot of you can do both.
Yeah, and that probably wouldn't have happened way back. I mean, I was so serious about the game of baseball as a kid, and you're trying to get your schoolwork done, and it would have been very difficult for me to play in a band in high school, or even have played, like trumpet in the marching band. I feel like, I was working out in the weight room as a very young kid in a way that people just don't do anywhere on the planet. I'm a 6 and 7 year old kid squatting super heavy weight, and so that ate up most of my time. And so what I found was in the minor leagues, though, being in hotel rooms and traveling on buses, that there was a little bit more time there, that you weren't doing schoolwork anymore, and you had the ability to kind of delve into something else, and that the guitar was kind of the thing that filled that space.
Best guitar ever made for you?
Oh, man, I've been playing a Martin. Fender's made me guitars in the past, but I've got this Martin I've been playing the last couple of years. I wanted something that sounds a little folky. I love the Lumineers.
Okay.
And I've fallen in love with I'm so terrible at equipment too. I couldn't even tell you the model. I'm just like I'm like an illiterate when it comes to that.
Because we're going through a change in some of our studio equipment, and one guy's coming through. Well, what do you think of this mic? What do you think of this mic? I'm like, does it work? Yes, it does. It sounds fine. Let's go with it.
Bronson, it's like being an average golfer. You don't know the difference between the best ball going and a mediocre ball.
There you go. Bronson Arroyo on the line with me right now. So some might say it's out now. Tell us a little bit more about that. What do we get when we go to a show with you guys or pop this in? What's it like listening to Bronson?
Well, you're getting a little bit of some influences. You're hearing a little bit of you can hear Eddie Vedder's vocal in there a little bit of Pearl Jam. You're getting a little bit of Tom Petty. There's a couple of songs. Hard Way's got a sprinkle of a little country in it, and there's a really pretty song called Never Let You Go on the record. That's I used to call it like the John Denver ditty. It's like this really pretty acoustic ballad. But for the most part, they're pretty hard driving songs, man, with big choruses. And I'm writing about outside subjects like the Vietnam War and Che Guevara and Fidel Castro taking over Cuba in 1959 and. Some might say the name of the record is a song that's kind of like I wrote that about the singer of Oasis. Gallagher there. He was so cocky when I saw him on stage. I was writing a song about how cocky he was. And you're having to find ways to try to invent things to talk about. I didn't really want to talk about myself a lot, although if you listen to the whole record, you'll find that there's a thread that goes through there that is Bronson Arroyo, and that's kind of like being present tense and enjoying the moments before we all pass. But for the most part, it's a rock and roll album from top to bottom, man. I think if people listen to it all the way through, there's some diversity there, and I think there's some good content you could dig into.
Let's finish up here, Bronson. What's coming up the rest of the year for you guys as a band, as a musician, and give me one prediction for the MLB season coming up.
The record's out now. You can find it anywhere you stream your music. We're playing March 19th coming up Sunday at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, and that's called Innings Fest. That's Dave Matthews
cool.
is headlining that with the Imagine Dragons, and that'll be the second one of those we're playing. Played one last month in Arizona, but that's coming up for us. And then we're playing Hot Stove Cool Music for Peter Gammons and Theo Epstein in Boston, Massachusetts. That's at City Winery, and that's going to be on April 15th. So those are the two shows we've got on the books right now. And an MLB prediction is, man, it probably won't happen, but I got to go with my man Dusty Baker. He's my favorite manager of all time, and I'm looking for him to go back-to-back and take 2 World Series rings home and retire and go into the Hall of Fame.
There you go. Bronson Arroyo on the line with me right now. We'll have all the information about the album and how to follow along with your stuff. Bronson, thank you so much, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.